The meeting room high above Nexus Prime buzzed with alien voices. Through the massive windows, 3 suns cast rainbow light across the neutral space station. Ambassador Minjun Park sat at the human delegation table, watching the other species argue over the biggest mining contract in 50 years. The quantum crystal mines of the Outer Rim held enough rare materials to power 1,000 worlds. Every major species wanted those mining rights. The humans had submitted their proposal months ago. Their bid was fair, their technology proven, and their safety record spotless. But Park could already see how this would end. High Merchant Kresh of the Korathi stretched his golden feathers and spoke in his musical voice. The Velthak Consortium has reviewed all proposals. We have made our decision. His bird-like head turned toward the human table, with what might have been amusement. The mining rights will go to the Kithara delegation. Surprised chittering filled the room. The Kithara were new to galactic politics. They had joined the community only 5 years ago. Their technology was basic. Their experience limited. Park raised his hand. May we ask why the human proposal was rejected? The crystalline Zelani representative, Speaker Vorth, chimed like broken glass. Your species lacks the proper perspective for such responsibility. These mining operations will span centuries. Humans live such brief lives. How can mayflies understand long-term planning? We have detailed plans covering the next 300 years, Park said calmly. Our geological surveys show optimal extraction methods with minimal environmental impact. The insectoid Threx delegate, Queen Voice Zixth, clicked her mandibles in what passed for laughter among her kind. Plans on paper mean nothing. Your species is too emotional, too quick to anger. We need steady hands for this work. High Merchant Kresh spread his wings slightly. The Korathi have worked with humans before. You are unpredictable. One day you make agreements, the next day your governments change and tear up contracts. You forget your own promises within a single generation. We have honored every contract we have signed, Park replied. Have you? Speaker Vorth's crystal form pulsed with cold light. What about the trade agreement with the Cillian Empire? Your merchants complained about shipping delays and demanded compensation that was never agreed upon. The delays violated the delivery schedules in Section 12 of that contract, Park said. We have recordings of all negotiations. Ace. Quote. Queen Voice Zixth made dismissive clicking sounds. Recordings. Documents. Files. Your species drowns in paperwork. This is exactly why you are unsuitable for long-term projects. You cannot see beyond your immediate concerns. High Merchant Kresh looked at the Kithara delegation with approval. The Kithara understand patience. They will work with consortium guidelines. They will not challenge every small detail or demand explanations for standard procedures. Park felt his jaw tighten but kept his voice level. We simply expect contracts to be honored as written. This attitude is the problem. Speaker Vorth chimed. You treat every minor adjustment as a personal insult. Galactic commerce requires flexibility, understanding. Your species holds grudges over trivial matters. We prefer the term accountability, Park said. The 3 consortium species exchanged looks that somehow managed to seem amused despite their alien faces. High Merchant Kresh's golden eyes gleamed. Humans and your legendary memory. You act as if every small slight is written in stone for all time. We do keep detailed records, Park admitted. Of course you do. Queen Voice Zixth's antennae twitched with what Park recognized as condescension. But this obsession with the past prevents you from adapting to present realities. The galaxy moves forward. Successful species learn to forget old grievances. Perhaps that is where we differ, Park said quietly. Speaker Vorth's crystalline form flickered. Indeed. The Kithara are young, eager to learn, willing to accept guidance. They will not question every decision or demand to review every historical precedent. The Kithara delegate, a slim humanoid with silver skin, bowed deeply. We are honored by this opportunity. We will work hard to prove ourselves worthy of consortium trust. Excellent, High Merchant Kresh said. The matter is settled. He turned back to Park. Perhaps in another century or two, when your species has developed more maturity, we can reconsider future partnerships. Park stood slowly. His aide handed him a data pad. I would like this decision officially recorded, along with the stated reasons. Rend. R. I would like this decision. Certainly, High Merchant Kresh said with elaborate politeness. Let it be noted that the human proposal was rejected due to species immaturity, excessive focus on minor contractual details, and inability to maintain long-term perspective due to brief individual lifespans and poor collective memory. Park nodded and touched his datapad. Every word was transmitted instantly to Earth's diplomatic archive, where it would join hundreds of thousands of other records. Thank you for your clarity. Thank you for your clarity. Thank you for your clarity. The consortium delegates seemed pleased by his calm acceptance. They had expected anger, protests, emotional outbursts. Instead, the humans gathered their materials and prepared to leave peacefully. No hard feelings, Ambassador, High Merchant Kresh said with false warmth. Business is business. Perhaps next time your species will be more realistic in their expectations. Park paused at the door. We understand completely. Every word you have spoken today will be remembered. I am sure it will, Speaker Vorth said with crystalline laughter. Humans and their record-keeping. You probably have files going back to first contact. We do, Park said simply. Every conversation, every agreement, every promise made. We keep it all. Queen Voice Zixth clicked in amusement. Such dedication to the past. No wonder you struggle with present opportunities. Park bowed politely to the room. Good day. We hope your mining venture proves educational. As the human delegation left, the consortium species congratulated themselves on handling the situation well. The humans had accepted their decision without causing a diplomatic incident. The matter was closed. High Merchant Kresh turned to the Cathera delegate. Now, let us discuss the actual terms of your mining contract. I trust you will be more reasonable than our previous applicants. Far below, in the docking bay, Park's aide activated a secure communication link to Earth. Message sent. Ambassador. The archive confirms receipt of all audio and visual records from today's session. Park looked out at the stars through the transport's viewport. Make sure they cross-reference this with all previous consortium interactions. Pattern analysis priority. Already in progress, sir. Dr. Chen wants to know if you expect retaliation for today's decision. Park smiled without humor. No retaliation. We are going to be very patient. We are going to remember everything. And someday, when they least expect it, they will learn what human memory really means. The transport pulled away from Nexus Prime, carrying its precious cargo of recorded words back to Earth. In the meeting room high above, the consortium began dividing their prize, unaware that they had just made the greatest mistake in their species' history. Humans never forget. The galaxy would learn this lesson, one broken promise at a time. 18 months had passed since the mining rights disaster. Dr. Sarah Chen sat in her office deep beneath Geneva, surrounded by holographic displays showing trade routes, contract databases, and communication logs. The Earth Diplomatic Archive hummed quietly around her, processing thousands of new entries every day. Prometheus, show me the latest consortium activity, she said to the artificial intelligence that helped manage humanity's vast record system. Data streams flowed across her screens. The AI's calm voice filled the room. 847 documented incidents of economic discrimination against human interests, 23 trade routes blocked through bureaucratic delays, 156 contract violations, resulting in estimated losses of 12.3 billion credits. Chen rubbed her tired eyes. Each number represented real suffering for human colonies scattered across the galaxy. Food shipments delayed until crops rotted, medical supplies held up by surprise inspections. Mining equipment denied export permits for months. Pattern analysis? She asked. Consistent with coordinated harassment campaign, Prometheus replied. The Velthak Consortium appears to be systematically excluding human commercial interests from profitable opportunities. The worst part was how subtle it all seemed. No single incident was large enough to justify a formal complaint. Always, there were reasonable explanations. Computer errors, standard procedures, unfortunate coincidences. Chen's communication panel chimed. Dr. Chen. This is Captain Rodriguez, calling from the Times Soul's Pride **. We have another situation. Elena Rodriguez appeared on screen, her face tight with frustration. Behind her, Chen could see the cramped bridge of a heavy transport ship. Let me guess, Chen said. Random inspection? 3 weeks now. Rodriguez confirmed. We're carrying medical supplies for the plague outbreak on Kythera Prime. Time-sensitive vaccines that expire in 5 days. The Korathi Port Authority at Junction Station says they need to verify our cargo manifests. Even though you filed them 2 months ago? Exactly. And somehow, their computer system keeps finding new forms we need to fill out. Different department, different requirements, different delays. Chen pulled up the relevant files. Prometheus. Cross-reference this with previous medical shipment delays. Pattern match found. Similar delays have affected 67% of human medical shipments through Korathi-controlled stations. Average delay time is 18.3 days. Just long enough for medical supplies to expire, Chen muttered. Captain Rodriguez leaned forward. Dr. Chen. Those vaccines could save thousands of Kythera lives. Their government is desperate. They specifically requested human medical technology because our vaccines work best against this plague strain. And the consortium knows this, Chen said grimly. Prometheus. What company won the emergency medical supply contract for Kythera Prime? Korathi Biotechnical Consortium, subsidiary of the Velthak Group. Contract value: 2.8 billion credits. Of course. Chen made notes on her tablet. Captain, I need you to document everything. Every conversation with port officials, every new form they request, every hour of delay. Full sensor records. Already done. But what good does it do? By the time we file a complaint, those people will be dead. Chen understood the captain's frustration. That was the cruelest part of the consortium's strategy. By the time humans could prove wrongdoing, the damage was irreversible. Just keep recording everything, Chen said. Every detail matters. After Rodriguez signed off, Chen turned back to her data analysis. The scope of the consortium's campaign was breathtaking. They had spent 18 months slowly strangling human commerce, always staying just below the threshold of open hostility. Human shipping companies found their cargo holds, randomly, selected for inspection at rates 10 times higher than other species. Human mining operations discovered new environmental regulations that applied only to their equipment. Human diplomatic communications experienced mysterious transmission delays. Each incident alone seemed minor. Together, they painted a picture of systematic economic warfare. Prometheus, expand the search. Look for consortium activities affecting other species. New data cascaded across the screens. Chen's eyes widened as patterns emerged. Interesting, Prometheus noted. The Cillian Trade Federation has experienced similar harassment. 43 documented incidents of shipping delays and contract modifications. What about the Mordek Collective? 78 incidents of territorial disputes, where consortium-backed corporations have claimed mining rights in traditionally Mordek systems. Chen leaned back in her chair. They're not just targeting us, Show me everything. The full picture was staggering. The Velthak Consortium had been systematically bullying smaller species for years. They used their economic power to force unfavorable contracts, then used legal technicalities to modify terms after signing. The peaceful Ythrani had lost 3 sacred sites to consortium mining operations. The original agreements promised the sites would be protected, but legal challenges dragged on for years while digging continued. The aquatic Hydrani found their trade routes constantly diverted through longer, more expensive paths. Consortium shipping companies somehow always had priority booking on the efficient routes. How do they get away with it? Chen wondered aloud. Each individual species lacks sufficient evidence to challenge consortium practices, Prometheus explained. The consortium carefully targets isolated groups without strong allies. Chen nodded slowly. That was the key to their success. Keep each victim isolated. Make sure no one saw the bigger picture. Rely on shorter-lived species, forgetting old grievances. But humans remembered everything. Prometheus, I want a comprehensive analysis. Every species the consortium has targeted. Every broken promise. Every contract violation. Every dirty trick. Cross-reference everything in our databases. Processing. Estimated completion time. 6.4 hours. Chen smiled grimly. Take all the time you need. We're going to document everything they've ever done. Her communication panel chimed again. This time, it was Ambassador Park, calling from a human colony in the Outer Rim. Dr. Chen. I've been contacted by a Kithara engineer named Zarthek. He says his people are having problems with their consortium mining contract. 8EP. Dr. Chen. 8EP. 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 What kind of problems? The promised jobs aren't materializing. Environmental protections are being ignored. And the profit-sharing agreement seems to have been modified without Kithara consent. Chen felt a cold satisfaction. How modified? Instead of receiving 40% of mining profits as originally agreed, they're getting 8%. The consortium claims the original contract had calculation errors. Errors that somehow always favor the consortium. Exactly. Zarthek wants to know if humanity might help them understand their legal options. Chen looked at her screens full of data. Tell him to come to Earth. I think we have quite a lot to discuss. After Park signed off, Chen sat in the quiet hum of the archive. Around her, millions of files held the detailed record of human contact with galactic civilization. Every conversation, every contract, every promise made and broken. The consortium thought humans were mayflies with short memories. They believed that time would blur the edges of every grievance, that eventually humans would forget and move on. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Prometheus, prepare a full case file on consortium activities. Include everything. I want a complete picture of their operations. Understood. Shall I mark this as priority? Classification? Lewd. Understood. Lewd. Shall I mark this as priority classification? Chen smiled. Mark it as evidence. In the depths of Earth's most secure archive, humanity's greatest weapon was awakening. Not a fleet of warships or a planet-killing device, but something far more dangerous to those who broke their promises. Perfect memory, infinite patience, and an absolute refusal to forget. The consortium had made their choice 18 months ago. Now, they would learn the price of underestimating human memory. Zarthek stood at the edge of the mining crater on Kithara Prime, watching alien machines tear apart his world. The Korathi supervisors had promised careful extraction that would preserve the natural landscape. Instead, they had stripped away entire forests to reach the quantum crystals below. His silver skin darkened with distress as he watched another sacred grove disappear into the growing pit. When his people had signed the consortium contract, they had been promised partnership, prosperity, and respect for Cathara traditions. 3 years later, they had received none of these things. The humans agreed to meet with me? Zarthek asked his communication device. Dr. Chen is expecting you at Earth's diplomatic facility, came the reply from Ambassador Park. Transport has been arranged. Zarthek had heard rumors about human record-keeping, stories whispered among the younger races about Earth's vast archives. Most species dismissed these tales as exaggeration. Surely no civilization could remember everything. The journey to Earth took 8 days. Zarthek spent the time reviewing his people's contract with the consortium, trying to understand where everything had gone wrong. The original agreement seemed clear enough. Joint mining operations. Cathara workers trained and employed. Environmental protections mandatory. Profits shared fairly. None of it had happened as promised. Earth's diplomatic facility surprised him. Instead of the gleaming towers he expected, he found himself in a modest building, surrounded by gardens. Dr. Sarah Chen met him personally, a middle-aged human woman with kind eyes and calloused hands that spoke of real work. "Welcome to Earth," she said in careful Cathara. "I understand you have concerns about your mining contract." Zarthek's silver skin rippled with surprise. "We study everyone we work with," Chen replied, switching to Standard Galactic. "Please, let's talk about your situation." She led him to a comfortable conference room, where holographic displays showed detailed star charts. Chen touched a control panel, and Zarthek gasped as his home system appeared in perfect detail above the table. "These are our survey records of Cathara Prime," Chen explained. "We mapped your system during first contact protocols 5 years ago. You have been watching us since then?" "We watch everyone," Chen said simply. "It's how we remember." She gestured, and new displays appeared. Contract documents, meeting transcripts, communication logs. Zarthek recognized the consortium's corporate seals on official agreements. "Your original mining contract?" Chen said, highlighting specific sections. "Signed 3 years ago. The consortium promised to employ 100,000 Cathara workers in mining operations." Zarthek nodded sadly. "They employed 12,000. The rest of the jobs went to Korathi technicians." "We know," Chen said quietly. "We have employment records from every consortium facility in your system." More data appeared. Financial reports, shipping manifests, profit calculations. Zarthek stared at the numbers in growing amazement. "According to this contract, my people should receive 40% of all mining profits," he said. "Yes. But look at these financial reports from consortium operations." Chen highlighted new documents. "Your people have received 8% of actual profits. The consortium has been using creative accounting to hide the real value of extracted materials." Zarthek's skin flashed through several colors, indicating deep shock. "You have proof of this?" "We have everything," Chen said. "Every communication between consortium officials discussing how to minimize payments to your people. Every falsified report. Every lie told to your government." She activated another display. Audio recordings began playing. Zarthek heard High Merchant Kresh speaking to other Korathi officials. "The Cathara are trusting fools," Kresh's voice said. "They believe our promises about partnership. We will extract what we need and leave them with worthless mining sites." "How do you have this?" Zarthek whispered. "The consortium uses standard galactic communication protocols," Chen explained. "Those protocols have security weaknesses. We have been monitoring their communications since the day they rejected humanity's mining proposal." Another recording played. This time, Zarthek heard Queen Voice Zixth discussing environmental damage. "Let them complain about sacred sites," the Threx delegate said. "By the time they take legal action, we will have extracted everything valuable. Their trees and monuments mean nothing compared to profit." Zarthek's silver skin now showed the deep red of anger. "They planned this deception from the beginning." "Every word," Chen confirmed. We have recordings of 73 separate meetings where consortium officials discussed how to cheat your people. We have documented evidence of 67 specific contract violations. She brought up environmental surveys showing the true scope of damage to Kithara Prime: poisoned water systems, extinct plant species, toxic waste buried in violation of galactic environmental laws. Your sacred groves, Chen said softly. The consortium knew they were protected sites. They destroyed them deliberately to force your people to relocate away from the mining areas. Zarthek sat in stunned silence as the evidence mounted. Every broken promise, every violation of trust, every crime against his people was documented in perfect detail. Why are you showing me this? He finally asked. Because we remember, Chen said. We remember every species the consortium has wronged. Your people are not their first victims. New displays appeared showing other civilizations. The Cillian Trade Federation, the Mordek Collective, the peaceful Ythrani. Dozens of species, all cheated by consortium greed. We have been building a case against them for 3 years. Chen explained. Every contract violation, every broken promise, every crime. But we need testimony from their victims. Zarthek looked at the mountain of evidence surrounding him. What do you want from my people? The truth, Chen said simply. Official testimony about what the consortium promised and what they actually delivered. Legal standing. To represent Kithara interests in Galactic Court. You would do this for us? Even though we received the mining rights that should have gone to humanity? Chen smiled sadly. Your people did nothing wrong. You were offered a contract by the consortium. You accepted in good faith. The fact that they used you to steal from humanity makes you fellow victims, not enemies. Zarthek studied the human woman carefully. Your species was insulted, cheated, dismissed as inferior. Why help us instead of seeking revenge? Because revenge is not justice, Chen replied. The consortium believes they can abuse any species without consequences. They think the galaxy will forget their crimes. They are wrong. She activated one final display. A comprehensive map showing consortium operations across dozens of star systems. Everywhere they went, they left behind broken contracts and exploited species. This pattern has to stop, Chen said. Not just for humanity, not just for the Kithara, but for every species they will victimize in the future. Zarthek stared at the evidence for a long moment. His people had been thoroughly betrayed, their trust violated, their world scarred. The consortium had counted on Kithara forgiveness, on their inability to fight back effectively. But they had not counted on human memory. What do we need to do? Zarthek asked. Chen's smile was cold and determined. Help us remember everything. Every promise they made to your people. Every lie they told. Every crime they committed. And then? Then we show the galaxy what happens to those who believe humans forget. As Zarthek agreed to testify against the consortium, neither he nor Chen knew that similar conversations were taking place across human space. Representatives from dozens of wronged species were arriving at Earth's diplomatic facilities, all carrying evidence of consortium crimes, all ready to demand justice. The consortium had spent years systematically cheating and exploiting smaller civilizations. They had counted on their victims' short memories and limited resources. They had forgotten that humans never forgive, and humans never forget. The reckoning was beginning. The secret diplomatic facility on New Geneva buzzed with activity. Representatives from 34 different species moved through the underground complex, their various forms of communication, creating a symphony of chirps, clicks, chimes, and harmonics. Ambassador Park watched from his office balcony as the galaxy's forgotten victims gathered for the first time in history. How many confirmed so far? Dr. Chen asked, joining him with a datapad. 34 species willing to testify, Park replied. Another dozen providing supporting evidence. Prometheus estimates We have documentation covering 15 years of consortium crimes. Below them, a Scythian trader was deep in conversation with a Mordek diplomat. Near the central meeting hall, Ythrani priests stood with Hydrani merchants, comparing notes on broken contracts and stolen profits. The Korathi would be horrified, Chen observed. All their victims talking to each other, sharing information. Park nodded. They built their whole strategy on keeping everyone isolated. Make each species think they were the only ones being cheated. The main conference hall held 200 beings representing the various wronged civilizations. As Park entered, conversations gradually quieted. He looked out at faces, crystal formations, and sensory organs he had learned to read over years of diplomatic work. Friends, he began. 3 years ago, the Velthak Consortium told humanity that we were too young, too emotional, too forgetful to be trusted with important galactic commerce. Today, we gather to show them exactly how wrong they were. Enthusiastic sounds filled the hall as different species expressed approval in their various ways. Zarthek stood first. The Kithara people wish to thank humanity for documenting our suffering. Without your records, we would never have understood the full scope of consortium deception. A Scythian trader named Kepzil spoke next. My trade federation has been systematically excluded from profitable shipping routes for 8 years. We thought it was simple market competition. Your evidence proves it was deliberate sabotage. One by one, representatives shared their stories. The consortium had used identical tactics against each species. Promise partnership, deliver exploitation. Promise respect, deliver contempt. Promise profit, deliver poverty. Dr. Chen activated the main display system. Prometheus. Show our friends what we have learned. The artificial intelligence's analysis filled the room with holographic data. Financial reports, communication intercepts, contract databases, and shipping records created a 3-dimensional map of consortium crimes. 15 years of systematic fraud, Prometheus announced. 2,847 documented contract violations. 156 billion credits stolen through accounting manipulation. Environmental crimes affecting 23 inhabited worlds. A collective gasp arose from the assembled delegates. Even those who had suspected consortium corruption had not imagined this scope. How did they hide this from galactic authorities? Asked a Mordek representative. Chen highlighted specific data streams. They never stole enough from any single species to trigger major investigations. Each violation was carefully calculated to stay below the threshold of galactic court jurisdiction. Until now, Park added. Individually, our cases were too small for galactic justice. Together, we represent the largest civil rights violation in recorded history. A Ythrani priest, her ethereal form shimmering with emotional energy, spoke in harmonious tones. Our sacred groves were destroyed for mining operations. The consortium claimed they were unaware these sites held religious significance. We have recordings of consortium executives laughing about your primitive superstitions, Chen said grimly. She activated an audio file where Korathi voices mocked Ythrani beliefs while planning to destroy protected sites. The priest's form flared with righteous anger. They knew. They always knew. They knew everything, Park confirmed. Every species has customs they exploited. Every species. Weaknesses they manipulated. Trust they betrayed. The Hydrani delegate, speaking through a translation unit that converted her aquatic sounds into standard galactic, bubbled with indignation. Our trade routes were diverted through consortium-controlled space stations. We paid billions in unnecessary fees. Fees that violated 7 different interstellar commerce laws, Chen added, displaying the relevant legal codes. But they counted on your people not understanding the complex regulations. A small, fuzzy creature that Park recognized as a Vellani engineer stood on his hind legs. My people designed mining equipment for the consortium. We were paid 30% of the agreed amount. They claimed our work was substandard. Your equipment specifications exceeded all galactic safety standards, Prometheus stated. Consortium engineers praised your work in internal communications, while publicly finding excuses to reduce payments. As the evidence mounted, Park watched the assembled representatives absorb the magnitude of consortium deception. These species had thought themselves isolated victims of bad luck or market forces. Now they understood they were part of a deliberate, systematic campaign of exploitation. "What can we do?" asked the Cillian trader. "The consortium controls too much of galactic commerce. They have friends in every government, investments in every major corporation. They have power," Park agreed. "But we have something better. We have the truth." Chen activated a new display showing legal precedents and galactic court procedures. Under the Combined Species Justice Treaty, any group of wronged civilizations can file a joint complaint if their cases show coordinated criminal activity. "The consortium will hire the best lawyers in the galaxy," warned a Mordek diplomat. "Let them," Park said. "We have something no lawyer can argue against: perfect documentation of their crimes. Every conversation they thought was private. Every contract they thought they could modify in secret. Every lie they thought would be forgotten." The Ythrani priest sang a question in harmonic tones. "Why did humans remember when our own people forgot?" Park looked around the room at the assembled species. "Because forgetting is a luxury we could not afford. Every species here is older than humanity, more established in galactic civilization. You had the comfort of thinking occasional injustice was normal, that business disappointments were part of life. Humans are newcomers," Chen continued. "Every interaction with galactic civilization could determine our species' future. We could not afford to trust, so we learned to verify. We could not afford to forget, so we learned to remember everything." A young Kithara engineer named Tarven spoke up. "The consortium called humans mayflies with short memories. They said your species was too brief to understand long-term consequences. They confused individual lifespan with collective memory." Park replied. "Yes, humans live shorter lives than most galactic species, but we build institutions that outlast any individual. Our records will preserve consortium crimes long after everyone in this room is dead." "What happens now?" asked the Hydrani delegate. Chen smiled with cold satisfaction. "Now we file the largest civil rights case in galactic history. We demand justice not just for our individual species, but for every civilization the consortium will victimize in the future." "They will try to settle out of court," warned a Cillian lawyer. "Offer minimal compensation in exchange for silence. Then they misunderstand what we want," Park said. "This is not about money. This is about ensuring that no species ever again suffers what you have all endured." As the meeting concluded, representatives began organizing their testimony and evidence. 34 civilizations, representing billions of individuals, were united for the first time in common cause against their oppressors. In the depths of New Geneva, Prometheus continued processing data, building the most comprehensive legal case in galactic history. Every stolen credit would be accounted for. Every broken promise would be documented. Every lie would be exposed. The consortium had spent 15 years systematically exploiting the trust and forgiveness of galactic civilization. They had counted on their victims being too isolated, too proud, or too forgetful to seek justice. They had made one critical error. They had underestimated human memory and human determination to see justice done. The galaxy was about to learn that humans never forget, and humans never forgive those who prey upon the innocent. The Galactic Supreme Court had never seen anything like it. Representatives from 34 species filled the massive hearing chamber on Nexus Prime, while holographic displays showed billions more watching from across the galaxy. The largest civil rights case in galactic history was about to begin. High Merchant Kresh entered the defendant's section with his usual arrogant stride. His golden feathers were perfectly groomed, his ceremonial robes marked with consortium symbols of power and wealth. Behind him came Speaker Vorth, her crystalline form pulsing with confident light, and Queen Voice Zixth, her insectoid features showing no concern. "Surely this will be resolved quickly," Kresh murmured to his lawyers. How much evidence could these primitive species actually have gathered? Ambassador Park stood at the prosecution table, surrounded by legal representatives from dozens of civilizations. He looked across the chamber at the consortium leaders, with the same calm expression he had worn 3 years ago when they rejected humanity's mining proposal. Chief Justice Zal Noor, a being of pure energy contained within a judicial framework, called the court to order. The case of the Combined Species Alliance versus the Velthak Consortium will now begin. Ambassador Park, please present your opening statement. Park rose slowly. The chamber fell silent as he activated the prosecution's evidence system. Your Honor, 3 years ago the defendants told humanity that we were too young and too forgetful to participate in galactic commerce. Today, we will show the court exactly how much we have remembered. The first holographic display showed the consortium's corporate structure. Hundreds of subsidiary companies, shell corporations, and hidden partnerships designed to obscure their true operations. The defendants have spent 15 years systematically defrauding, exploiting, and abusing species across the galaxy, Park continued. They have violated 2,847 separate contracts, stolen 156 billion galactic credits, and committed environmental crimes against 23 inhabited worlds. Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. Even the defense lawyers seemed surprised by the scope of the accusations. These are serious charges, Chief Justice Zal Noor stated. What evidence do you present? Park smiled. All of it, Your Honor. Prometheus activated throughout the chamber. Every screen, every display, every holographic projector came alive with evidence. Financial records, communication intercepts, contract databases, shipping manifests, and environmental surveys flooded the court with data. We present 847,000 documents proving consortium fraud, Park announced. 23,000 hours of recorded communications between consortium executives planning their crimes. Complete financial records showing exactly how much they stole from each victim species. High Merchant Kresh rose angrily. Your Honor, this is impossible. No one could have gathered this much information without illegal surveillance. All evidence was gathered through legal monitoring of public communications and documented contract violations, Park replied calmly. The defendants seem to have forgotten that galactic communication protocols include automatic logging functions. Humans and their obsession with record-keeping, Speaker Vorth chimed dismissively. This proves nothing, except your species' inability to focus on important matters. Park activated a specific audio file. Speaker Vorth's own voice filled the chamber. The Ythrani are primitive fools. Their sacred sites mean nothing. Destroy whatever we need to destroy, for profit. The crystalline being's form flickered with shock. That was a private communication. There are no private communications when planning criminal conspiracy, Park replied. Prometheus, please share the court's favorite recording. A new audio file played High Merchant Kresh, speaking to other consortium executives. Humans are mayflies who forget their own history. We can cheat them forever. They lack the memory to connect our various schemes. The golden Korathi's feathers puffed with embarrassment as laughter echoed through the chamber. For 6 hours, Park announced. The prosecution will present evidence of consortium crimes in chronological order. Every species they have wronged. Every contract they have violated. Every promise they have broken. What followed was the most comprehensive presentation of criminal evidence in galactic legal history. Park and his team methodically documented 15 years of systematic fraud. Each victim species testified about broken promises and stolen profits. Each crime was supported by recordings of consortium executives planning their deceptions. The Kithara testified about mining contracts that promised partnership but delivered exploitation. The Cillian Federation showed how shipping routes were illegally monopolized. The Ythrani priests played recordings of consortium executives mocking their destroyed sacred sites. By the 4th hour, the defense lawyers were visibly shaken. By the 6th hour, High Merchant Kresh was slumped in his chair, his golden feathers dull with defeat. "How did you remember all of this?" Queen Voice Zixth finally whispered. "Because we are human," Park replied. "You called us mayflies, who forget our own history. But human history is written in permanent records. We remember our friends, and we remember our enemies. We remember every kindness shown to us, and we remember every knife placed in our backs." Chief Justice Zal-Noor reviewed the evidence displays surrounding the chamber. "The scope of documented criminal activity is unprecedented. Does the defense wish to present counter-evidence?" The consortium's lead lawyer, an expensive advocate from the core worlds, stood weakly. "Your Honor, we had no idea this much evidence existed. We request time to review." "You have had 15 years to review your client's actions," Park interrupted. "Every document we have presented was created by consortium executives themselves. Every recording features their own voices. There is no counter-evidence because there is no defense for systematic fraud." The trial's conclusion was swift. Chief Justice Zal-Noor conferred briefly with the other judges before announcing the verdict. "The court finds the Velthak Consortium guilty of systematic fraud, criminal conspiracy, environmental destruction, and violation of galactic civil rights laws. The defendants will pay 4.7 trillion galactic credits in damages to their victims. All illegal territorial gains will be surrendered immediately. All future consortium business operations will be subject to oversight by representatives from the wronged species. Furthermore," the Chief Justice continued, "individual consortium executives will face criminal charges for their personal participation in these crimes." As security officers moved to arrest High Merchant Kresh and his co-conspirators, the Golden Korathi looked across the chamber at Ambassador Park. He asked in defeat. "Since the moment you rejected our mining proposal," Park replied, "you told us that humans forget too quickly to understand long-term consequences. You were wrong about the forgetting. You were wrong about the consequences." Speaker Vorth's crystalline form pulsed weakly. "You intended everything," Park said firmly. "Every species you cheated, every contract you violated, every sacred site you destroyed. You planned it all, and we documented it all." As the consortium leaders were led away in custody, representatives from the 34 victim species gathered around the human delegation. Zarthek, of the Kithara, spoke for all of them. "Your species has given the galaxy a great gift," he said. "You have shown that justice is possible, even against the most powerful criminals." Dr. Chen, watching from the gallery, smiled with satisfaction. The consortium's empire was collapsing as their various subsidiaries and partners rushed to distance themselves from the criminal organization. Dozens of worlds would receive compensation for years of exploitation. "What happens now?" asked a Ythrani priest. Ambassador Park looked around at the assembled species who had stood together against oppression. "Now we remember this victory. We remember that when good species stand together, evil cannot prevail." 6 months later, Dr. Chen stood in the expanded Earth Diplomatic Archive, now designated as the Galactic Center for Justice Documentation. Representatives from dozens of species worked alongside humans, building comprehensive records of interstellar interactions. "Prometheus," she said to the AI, "how many species have requested access to our documentation services?" 127 civilizations have established formal record-sharing agreements with Earth, the AI replied. "The galaxy appears to be learning the value of human memory." WR. Through the archive's windows, Chen could see ships from across known space bringing their historical records to Earth for permanent preservation. The consortium's defeat had taught the galaxy an important lesson. Forgetting injustice only allows it to continue. Somewhere in a high-security prison on Nexus Prime, High Merchant Kresh sat in his cell, finally understanding what he had unleashed 3 years ago. He had dismissed humans as mayflies with poor memories. Now the entire galaxy knew the truth. Humans never forget. And when they remember, justice follows. The consortium had learned this lesson far too late. Their empire of exploitation was finished, their victims compensated, their crimes exposed for all eternity. In the end, human memory had proved more powerful than all their wealth and influence combined. And the galaxy would remember this lesson for a very long time.